all I said is they don't deserve your time. That is a personal decision you get to make. It's a decision I get to make. When Tucker says, when I hear calls for deplatforming, anyone can have anyone on any stage at any time. This is America. If you decide to waste your time listening to the conspiratorial ravings of an incipient madman like Tucker Carlson, you can do that. This is America. But you are also wasting your time and you're making your brain dumber. You're becoming a stupider person. Well, the thing that I've been telling all my Jewish friends, who are, of course, very worried about anti-Semitism, is anti-Semitism is a symptom of a much broader malady. The anti-Semitism is not the thing that's causing everything else. The anti-Semitism is a symptom of something much worse that is happening and that I think is truly threatening to the country. And that is that the left has basically made the case that all the institutions have been rigged for centuries and are currently rigged against minorities, sexual minorities, and all the rest. And therefore, the only solution is to tear down those institutions. And the right, I think, in reaction to that, said young white Christian men, particularly, have been victimized by the system. And there's always a grain of truth to these things. I mean, obviously, there was historic discrimination for the left. That's true. And for the right, it's true that there was a lot of policy that was, in fact, rigged against young white Christian men. DEI, right? DEI being the prime example. And that has now been abstracted into a theory whereby the fundamental institutions of the West are themselves corrupted in the same way that the left believes that. So the left will say meritocracy is a lie and it's a sham perpetuated by an elite in order to harm you. There's no such thing as meritocracy. It's all just a gigantic corrupt lie that has been pushed in order so that the elite can stay the elite. You'll see the same exact thing said by Tucker Carlson.
Right.
And I don't think that's a coincidence. The purported victims are different, but the general approach to the world is the same. So the conspiracy theorizing, what I've said before is that I think that people have asked me before, what conspiracy theories do you believe in? I said, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I believe in conspiracies because if there's conspiracy with evidence, it's no longer a theory. And if it's a conspiracy without evidence, then it's conspiracy theory and you shouldn't believe it because it has no evidence. Right. But the move from the moon landing was fake and you were lied about it to, and the Jews run the banking system is usually about 0.5 seconds.
Right.
And so that is true of virtually everything. So an anti-institutional movement that says, listen, sometimes the institutions lie to you. Sometimes they tell you the truth. In the cases where they're lying to you, we should be able to adduce evidence that they were lying to you. And then we should not trust the people who lied to you, but that's not the entire institution. That's people within the institution who lied to you. And you shouldn't just blow up all the institutions, right? That is a nuanced point of view. That gets depixelated into they lied to you, unspecified they lied to you. They are all lying to you. Nothing they say can be trusted. Trust me, I'm selling you testosterone and gold. And also the idea that the Jews are behind the global markets and manipulating world events on behalf of a tiny state in the Middle East, right? That is the depixelated version. Because once you believe they are lying to you, then you're susceptible to literally anything.
It wasn't all that long ago when support for Israel was solid and completely bipartisan. It was long ago enough so that it's in the memory of my youth and just over the memory horizon for most of the population, I suppose. On the same day in September 1984, for instance, both President Reagan and his Democratic challenger, Walter Mondale, spoke before the Jewish organization B'nai B'rith. I happened to write Ronald Reagan's speech, so this one I remember. Reagan, quote, I pledge unwavering support for the state of Israel, with which we will stand, quote, forever united. Walter Mondale, support for Israel is, quote, non-negotiable and rooted in, quote, moral obligation. Both parties, we're with you. Those days are gone.
Yes.
Are they ever coming back?
I think unlikely.
You do?
I think unlikely because I think that, again, the grievance politics that undergirds our politics is too strong. So I think that the anti-Israel sentiment and the anti-Semitism that we're seeing are an outgrowth of the same sort of politics that I've been talking about growing inside the Republican Party and has taken completely over the Democratic Party. Once you believe that conspiratorial forces run your life, that your personal shortcomings are the fault of the systems, you tend to start looking at who is disproportionately successful and thinking that they're manipulating the system, right? There's a Karl Popper point that
Right.
Basically it is very easy. Yes, it is envy. That if you look at Jews in America, they're disproportionately highly educated, they're disproportionately high income, they have generally pretty solid family structures. And so you look, and they're disproportionately represented in a lot of major industries, including things like banking and like Hollywood and like the legal industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. All of that is true. In tech, like all of that is true. And so the idea becomes, is that happening because Jews have and have for generations placed extraordinary effort in educating their kids, in placing high value on effort itself? Right? This sort of Amy Chua tiger mom thing doesn't just apply to a lot of Asian cultures. It applies to Jews, like a lot. And maybe if you do that for generation after generation after generation, you end up with a population that actually is disproportionately successful. It doesn't just apply to Jews, right? You see it with Indian Americans, you see it with Nigerian Americans, right? You see it with a wide variety of groups. And
this is the Tom Sowell point.
Yes, this is the Tom Sowell point.
Yeah.
It tends to be more clear with Jews because Jews have, again, been very visible across Europe for large portions of this. And so there's a long history of this being an issue. But sort of the middleman minority, which is Tom Sowell's point.
Right.
You know, that's been true for Jews for a very long time. But now apply that matrix internationally. So if you're on the left, what you tend to believe is that success equals exploitation. These are the same thing. The successful are successful because they exploit it. So the left looks to the Middle East. There's only one successful state in the Middle East. It is a tiny state with a very small population, and it is militarily dominant from this position over population of 400 million, in the sense that you're talking about, again, the country of Israel is 10 million people. 2 million of those people are Arabs. Another 2 million of those people are Haredim, which means they really don't partake in any of the systems and survive largely on welfare. That means you have 6 million citizens in Israel are basically bolstering a military that is overseeing the safety of the entire Middle East, that is generating a GDP per capita that exceeds, I believe, every country in Europe at this point. And that
has a tech sector.
That has a tech sector.
Has a tech sector, which
dominant tech sector.
The Europeans do not.
A dominant tech sector.
Right.
Like more unicorn companies per capita than any country on earth. And that country is hated for its success because of that. And I think on the right, it's the same sort of thing. If you believe in grievance politics and that the United States has been brainwashed into its own senescence, that the United States is basically complicit in its own decline, and that there's a group of secret people who are doing that, you start to look at, well, who's had a pretty good 80 years? Well, I mean, the truth is that Jews in America have had an amazing 80 years. And the truth is that the state of Israel has had a pretty stellar 80 years since its foundation. And so you can see why that starts to cross over.
Right. This past December, you were the first speaker at the very first Turning Point USA conference since Charlie Kirk was killed. Ben Shapiro at Turning Point USA.
Why does that matter? Well, because today the conservative movement is in serious danger. It is in danger, not just from a left that all too frequently excuses everything up to and including murder. The conservative movement is also in danger from charlatans who claim to speak in the name of principle, but actually traffic in conspiracism and dishonesty, who offer nothing but bile and despair, who seek to undermine fundamental principles of conservatism by championing enervation and grievance. These people are frauds, they are grifters, and they do not deserve your time.
First big meeting since Charlie Kirk was killed would seem to call for unity, and you offered that. Why?
Well, in order to understand what I was doing there, I think you have to understand the lead up to what happened in TPUSA. So in the immediate aftermath of Charlie's murder, Candace Owens began propagating theories about TPUSA being involved in a cover-up of Charlie's murder, some deep, dark, nefarious scheme in order to topple Charlie, who she says was going to kind of move into her camp, the anti-Israel camp, she says, but for other reasons as well, and that this may have included.
By the way, we should note. I mean, to me, I listen to this and it's just crazy. Why would anybody listen to that? But she has a big audience.
She has a huge audience, and the answer is because there is a market for conspiracism. I mean, that's what I'm railing against right there. I mean, I named her in the speech.
Yeah.
I named her and Tucker Carlson.
Yes, you did.
And I said that they are conspiracists because they are.
Hold on. And you also named Megyn Kelly.
I said Megyn Kelly's a coward because Megyn Kelly is a coward.
All right. And here's what Megyn Kelly said when she appeared after you at the very same conference. I'm certainly not going to condemn the people that Ben Shapiro demands I condemn in order to be in his imaginary club. And here's what Tucker said later at the same conference. To hear calls for like deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? I mean, this kind of was the whole point of Charlie Kirk's public life, close quote. How do you respond? These are not arguments.
They are not even remotely arguments. They're not remotely arguments, which is sort of the point. And of late, the attack on me has been to say that the reason I attacked Tucker and Megyn and Steve Bannon, among others, that the reason that I name-checked these people and Candace was because of Israel or the Jews. One thing that you may notice if you go back and you watch that entire TPUSA speech, at no point anywhere in the speech do I mention Israel or the Jews. At no point. The only people who have mentioned it in this context are the people who are lashing back.
So what are you doing here? You're attempting to define an Overton window for the conservative movement.
Correct. And the prior night I did too. I gave a speech at Heritage Foundation criticizing Tucker Carlson, in which I said any movement worth its salt must have ideological borders. Right, period. And it's not about deplatforming. Like this is, again, when I talk about the depixelation of cancel culture, when Megyn says, oh, we're not going to deplatform people, I'm not going to condemn the people. No one said that you can't have on who you want to have. All I said is they don't deserve your time. That is a personal decision you get to make. It's a decision I get to make. When Tucker says, when I hear calls for deplatforming, anyone can have anyone on any stage at any time. This is America. If you decide to waste your time listening to the conspiratorial ravings of an incipient madman like Tucker Carlson, you can do that. This is America. But you are also wasting your time and you're making your brain dumber. You're becoming a stupider person.
And do you feel you're getting traction?
I mean, I don't frankly care. I mean, in the sense that I'm saying I'm saying a true thing, and saying the true thing, whether it gets traction or not, is worth something.
All right. One more question.
But yes, I do think that it's getting traction.
It is getting traction.
It is absolutely getting traction. There's a reason why that speech basically blew up the convention. And then, by the way, I should mention, okay, the entire speech was in defense of Erica Kirk, who spoke before me. I was not the first speaker. Erica was the first speaker.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and so Erica spoke. I gave that speech, and now I'll just say it because I may as well. I came off the stage and Erica gave me an enormous hug because no one in this camp will defend her against basic lies. Candace has been lying about Erica. She's been saying awful things about Erica. And let me explain. I didn't know Erica. I'd never met Erica. Okay.
Before that night?
Before that night, I had never met Erica Kirk in person. Actually, that's not true. I met Erica shortly after Charlie was shot when I co-hosted his show with a couple of the other Daily Wire hosts, Knowles and Walsh. Other than that, I had never had any dealings with Erica Kirk. I didn't meet her until after Charlie had been murdered. Okay, so this is not about a long-standing... This is because it's wrong. You don't do this to people. And people who are willing to sell out their supposed friends in order to get a few clicks are cowards. That was my criticism of Megyn Kelly. It remains my criticism of Megyn Kelly today. Megyn has still not condemned Candace Owens for what she's doing. And Candace put out a multi-part series called The Bride of Charlie that was about Erica Kirk and her perverse mission to, I don't know, take over TPUSA by being complicit in the murder of her husband. That's cowardice. I don't know another word for it.
If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this. You can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real. It is stored safely. It is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.